Hi everybody, I'm Rebecca Keppel. I'm here for Jillibean Soup today, and I want to show you how to use the brand new Shaped Shaker tags. You may be familiar with the Shaped Shaker cards, and so I wanted to show you how to use these little tag sets. So I have the balloon tag sets and the balloon shaped shakers. I also have a coordinating stamp set. You can use this balloon stamp with those tags. They also have some sentiments on there, they have dies, and I also have the brand new Jillibean Soup seed beads. So I'm going to use these to create a tag. So I have that stamp and die set, and you'll see that there's no matching die for the balloon. That's because it's meant to go with the tag, and it actually fits right inside the tag when it's closed. So you don't have to open it up and try and figure out where to place it. You just close up the tag and then place the stamp right inside the opening there, and it will stamp inside. So I'm going to use my MISTI to make this even easier, and I'm going to stamp up this balloon stamp with a bright pink ink. And this is the first time I'm using this stamp set, so I do stamp it a number of times. You don't have to do that. You could stamp off to the side in order to get your stamps really primed and ready to go. But I didn't think of it before we started this tag, so I just stamped it a bunch of times until I got a really nice clean image. And then next time I use this stamp, it'll be absolutely ready to go. So you can see that it's stamped right inside the little tag there, so it has sort of a base image for your shaker. Next, I'm going to grab one of the strings. The strings have little sentiments on them. This one says happy, and I'm going to stamp that right below the balloon die cut on the tag there. And you could add a real string if you wanted to. I love these little sentiment strings. I think they're adorable. They do have matching dies for these as well, so if you wanted to do this separately, you could do that. I'm going to stamp this with VersaFine black ONYX ink. I think it gives a really great crisp black impression. And the next thing I'm going to do is grab some of the little stars from the stamp set and kind of situate those around the balloon. And I'm going to stamp those in Hero Arts. It's a silver ink. So I'm going to just pick those up with the door of my MISTI, and there's that silver ink. And once I pick them up with the door, then I'm going to go in and ink up my stamps, close the door, and now I've got all of my stamping done on this tag. So I'm going to put my MISTI away and get started creating the actual shaker. So this is the balloon shaped shaker. I have the little seed beads. I have two colors, and I've mixed them in a little container there so I can get a really good combination before I put them in the shaped shaker. I use just a sharp scissor to grab off the little backing to the adhesive there, and then I just lay it inside the shaker tag, insert all of my little seed beads there, and then carefully close up the tag so that everything is nice and lined up. And you can see that's what the shaker will look like once it's all done. The only thing that's left to do is adhere the two sides of the tags together. So I'm just going to use a little tape runner on the inside of the tag and then close it up again. And there you go. Now our tag is done, and there are these twine included in the packages, so you could tie it onto a present, or you could tie a knot at the top and use it as a hang tag. I'm going to actually turn this into a card. So I have a piece of white cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I have a slightly smaller piece of pattern paper, and I've cut a 1-inch strip of black cardstock and heat embossed Let's Celebrate from that balloon stamp set on that in white embossing powder. So I'm going to layer everything together with some tape runner, and I have die cut that 1-inch strip of black cardstock so that it matches the rectangle of blue paper exactly. And I'm just using a dusting cloth to get off some of the embossing powder and some of the anti-static powder that I had on there. And I tied this one. I decided to use some colorful twine on this one since I'm putting it on a card, and I wanted to kind of bring up some of the colors. So I have a pink and a blue twine, and now I am adding some 3-dimensional zots from Thermo on the back of this tag. I'm going to pop it up on top of the card. So once I lay those down, you can see the tag is got a lot of dimension there with that shaker and with the 3D zots behind it. And so that is all that's left to do, is to put it on the card base there. It's a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding note card. I'm just adhering it with some tape runner again. So the last thing I'm going to do is just add a few little dots of Tonic Studios Nouveau Jewel drops in pink and yellow. Those are the same colors that I used of the seed beads, so I thought that would be fun. And just add some little confetti falling around the balloon with the stars. And once those are dry, they'll dry kind of translucent, so they'll go really nicely with the seed beads. And that's the first card. I also wanted to show you how to use the jar set, because this stamp set coordinates with the jar shaped shakers, but it's a little bit different than the balloon one. It doesn't stamp on the inside, it actually stamps on the outside, except for this tiny stamp in the middle that creates the shape of the jar, the roundness of the jar, that goes on the inside. So you can stamp them both at the same time. That's what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to use some anti-static powder tool on the tag because I am going to heat emboss the lid. So I'm going to use VersaFine black ONYX ink because it's a pigment ink and it will allow me to heat emboss the section that I want. So I line up the mason jar on the outside of the die cut part of the tag, and then I line up those little lines right inside, and the stamp is cut out so that you can do that. Next, I'm going to ink everything up with the black ONYX ink and press down with my MISTI, and I get a great impression from the first. So I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to grab some silver embossing powder, open up the tag so that I just put the embossing powder on the top, just on that lid there where the mason jar lid would be. So I'm really being careful not to get it on the rest of the jar. That's going to stay black. And then I'm going to heat up my heat tool and melt the embossing powder just on that lid there. And you'll see that you get a really nice silver mason jar lid, and then the rest of the outline is black. So once the stamping and heat embossing is done, it's time to fill the shaker. So I have the mason jar shaped shaker. I've already removed the adhesive, and I'm going to use some of these little tiny butterfly wood veneers and fill up my little mason jar with some butterflies. I'm also going to grab some of the yellow seed beads and mix some of those in as well. And then I'm going to carefully fold up the tag. That's going to adhere the shaped shaker to the back exactly where it needs to be placed. So that's the easiest way I know of to do it. And then I'm going to add my tape runner to the inside and once again close it up, and that will complete putting the whole shaped shaker tag together. I also wanted to add a little sentiment here. I really like that thanks script sentiment, and I like the fact that they have the dies because I didn't do the stamping ahead of time, so I'm going to do it afterwards. Next, we're going to use some Distress Oxide ink. I have the Broken China, and I'm just going to ink around this card, and that's just one way to kind of embellish the card. For my card panel, I cut out a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of pattern paper from this Jillibean Soup Farmhouse Stew collection, and you'll notice that the upper left hand corner of the 12 by 12 piece of pattern paper has smaller butterflies. This is a great way to use your 12 by 12 pieces on cards. Find a part of the pattern paper that has a smaller sized pattern. So these butterflies are absolutely perfect for the front of a card. I'm going to adhere that panel down to a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 top folding note card. So I've stamped and heat embossed with white embossing powder the thanks stamp. On the reverse side of that butterfly pattern paper is a green pattern paper, and now I'm going to die cut it, and you just have to line up the outside of the die right around the stamping, and then you'll get a great little die cut that you can put on your tag, or you can pop it up and it matches perfectly with those butterflies. I'm going to take a Thermoweb zots, these 3D zots, and I'm going to cut just a slice of it off. I'm going to lay it down on the back of the die cut, and that's going to make this die cut three-dimensional, and you won't even see the dimensional adhesive in the back because it is clear. So the next thing I'm going to do is take my card with a panel, and I'm going to put some ribbon on it. And I just felt like it needed one more thing just to kind of pull everything together. So I could have wrapped the ribbon around the card panel. I didn't think of it before I adhered it down. So this is another way to do it. Just use a strip of tape runner or just a line of tape runner and put your ribbon on top, flip it over and cut off the edges. And that will have the basis for your bow, or how you're gonna place your bow on top of that ribbon. Then I just use some tape runner to put the tag on top of that. And now I'm gonna take the ribbon that I used on the base and I'm gonna tie a small bow with it and just keep fussing with it until I get it tiny enough to fit next to that tag there. And once I do have that, I'm gonna trim the tails, and I'm going to adhere this with a ThermoWeb zots, not the 3-dimensional one, just a regular medium-sized zots. And the way to do that is to stick the bow right on the zots, still on the backing paper, and then just smush it behind the center of the bow, and now you have an adhesive bow that you can just press down onto your card and it's adhered, and you don't have any drying time to wait for. So that completes my second card. I'm just going to trim those tails of the twine at the top there, and you have a shaped shaker tag card. You of course could use these tags right on presents. You can use them just on little gifts or by themselves, or you can use them on cards like I did here, and you can see how easy they are to put together and how much fun they are too. So I hope you'll check them out. Thanks so much for stopping by today. If you're interested in the products, just look down below and everything will be linked. Have a great day.